Genaan, dis weer tyd vir Fokus hier op SABC 2. Ek is Lenet Francis Puren, baie welkom. Load shedding continues to have a huge impact on the lives of South Africans, disrupting businesses and putting a strain on our families. Dit was die woorde van president Cyril Ramaphosa tydens sy staatsrede verlede maand 14 jaar nadat Suid-Afrikaners die eerste keer beurtkrag ervaar het. Sedert 2008 styger Eskom van die een krisis na die ander en trek Suid-Afrikaners en die ekonomie aan die kortste end. In 'n spesiale program vertel regisseur Karen Dorwiel die verhaal van hoe Eskom getuimel het.
I'm going to tell the country there will never be load shedding again. Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Dit was in 2016 gewees. Oud-president Jacob Zuma het Suid-Afrikaners en Eskom-werknemers toegespreek en almal het gejubel. Dis nou 6 jaar later en Suid-Afrikaners besef deeglik daar was eintlik min rede om te jubel. Trouwens, Eskom het net gister Suid-Afrikaners ingelig dat hulle kan verwag om beurtkrag te ervaar die volgende 6 dae. Nou ons program hoor onder meer beurtkrag, maar ook ander probleme wat Eskom ervaar, begin in die middel 90er jare.
Ons moet probeer om meer en meer mense met elektrisiteit te voorsien. Eskom self beplan om in die volgende 5-6 jaar 1 miljoen huise te elektrifiseer.
That vision was driven by the electricity for all. It was driven by the leadership of Eskom in terms of providing electrical energy to all applications, not just residential customers, but also for agricultural customers, domestic customers and commercial customers.
Die vlak van Eskom se gesondheid in die jare 90 was eintlik baie goed as 'n mens in die oog hou dat hy toe geweldig baie opwekkingsvermoë gehad het. So hy het 'n baie goeie sterk reservemarge gehad. Hy kon gevolglik eenhede uit diens uithaal en hulle oordentlik in stand hou. Dit het daartoe bygedra dat hy eintlik baie goed gehelp het met die groei van die ekonomie in die land.
Elektrisiteit was bekostigbaar en selfs goedkoop reg deur die 90er jare.
You all know for a fact that Eskom has also reduced the real price of electricity by 15%, so as to become the world's lowest producer of electricity.
The Eskom vision was very clear, world's lowest cost. And we could deliver the world's lowest cost to our customers by being a top utility, top performing utility.
Maar soos hierdie 3 afgetrede werknemers van Eskom, van wie 2 lede van die Suid-Afrikaanse Instituut van Elektriese Ingenieurs is, verduidelik, was daar ook 'n ander rede vir die goedkoop krag.
Because Eskom had been decided or been told to stop building any new stations in the mid-90s, essentially what the tariff came down to was just the cost of operating the Eskom plants, operating and maintenance and fuel. There was no capital inclusion in there.
Johan Prinsloo het langer as 20 jaar vir Eskom gewerk. Hy vertel dat die wetskrif oor energie, wat in Desember 1998 bekendgestel is, dit duidelik maak dat die privaat sektor van die kragopwekking in Suid-Afrika moes oorneem.
Karen, Eskom was in 1999 was hulle verbied om te bou. En daar was toe besluit dat nuwe kragstasies sal deur onafhanklike of private kragverskaffers gebou word. So Eskom kon dus nie meer kragstasies gebou het nie.
A lot of IPPs came to the marketplace in that period from, let's say, mid-90s through until the early 2000s and said, we can't compete in the marketplace, can we sell our power to Eskom at our cost? And Eskom said, as your cost is higher than our cost, we're not going to buy your power, pretty logically.
Van die oud Eskom-werknemers met wie Fokus gepraat het, ondersteun die mening van Dr. Ian McCray, Eskom se uitvoerende hoof tot en met 1994. Die regering moet uit Eskom se enginekamer gehou word.
Ek dink Eskom was altyd 'n creature of statute. Met ander woorde, Hy was 'n organisasie wat op sy eie bestaan het, hy het sy eie besluite gemaak, hy het sy eie geld gaan leen. En dit was 'n resep wat goed gewerk is.
Maar in 2002 is Eskom omskep in 'n maatskappy kragtens die wet op maatskappye. Sy eerste raad is aangestel deur die minister.
Eskom moet 'n onafhanklike organisasie wees, want hy is op die einde van die dag die supplier of last resort.
Die wetskrif oor energie het in 1998 ook gewaarsku. Teen 2007 sou Suid-Afrika meer elektrisiteit benodig as wat opgewek word.
If I'm growing the economy at this rate, or growing the demand at this rate, I will pass through my available capacity on this date.
In die vroeë 2000s het Eskom verskeie toekennings gewen. In 2001 het die Financial Times in New York Eskom aangewys as die beste elektrisiteitsmaatskappy ter wêreld. En in 2004 het Markinor Eskom aangewys as die handelsmerk wat die meeste in Suid-Afrika bewonder word.
Ek dink dat die rede dat Eskom op daai stadium steeds baie effektief was en daar was 'n groot hoeveelheid elektrifisering wat gebeur het in die townships, is waarskynlik so. Ons het op internasionale verhoë, soos byvoorbeeld in Gereëlde, was Eskom hoog aangeskreeu.
Met geen nuwe kragstasies wat gebou word nie, maar 'n ekonomie wat groei, is daar in 2003 besluit om 3 kragstasies in Kouestoor, Camden, Grootvlei en Komati weer in die lewe te roep.
You've got X thousand megawatts, unique growth is coming in, you bring them back. So that was 3,500 megawatts, I think, of plant due to be brought back.
So the idea was that they would come in and give us more the energy component, so that during the week, the mid-merit time of the week, they would be available to give us the required energy to contribute to the economy.
Maar die 3 stasies se bydrae sou nie genoeg wees nie. In 2004 het Eskom die toestemming gekry om weer nuwe kragstasies te bou.
When Alec Irwin came in as Minister of Public Enterprise in 2004, he came to Eskom apparently and he said, I've read the 90-year energy policy. It explicitly says we can run out of power in 2007. Is that still true? And Eskom said, yes, we're on the same track we've been for the last 20 years, in terms of about 3.5% growth rate. We'll pass through ground zero in about 2007. And he said, okay, well, what are you building to fill the need? And Eskom said, nothing, because we've been told to do nothing. So in about 4 months, Eskom went from, you've got no plans, no engineering teams, no project management teams, nobody in the company whose job description says new build construction, to being on site with 2 of the largest projects in the world in about 24 months.
In the article I outlined
2007, die dag vir Eskom en sy vermoë om voldoende krag op te wek, het gewink.
Mens kan dit seker maar net met een woord opsom en dit is bestuur. Mense moes 'n besluit geneem het op sekere stadiums om nuwe kragstasies te laat bou. Dit het nie gebeur nie, dit het betyds gebeur nie. Die besluit was laat geweest.
The problem of electricity comes from growth. It comes from the growth and the development of the country. Not for the country going down, but the country going up. See, the problem was a problem of an underestimation of the demand for electricity, and therefore planning for increases in demand of electricity, which were wrong.
The problems in 2006-07 were driven by 2 things. One was at that point, still a gradually falling performance of our coal stations, not dramatic, but and growth.
Eskom se Ankerlig en Gourikwa gasturbine kragstasies is in 2007 in gebruik geneem, maar dit was nie genoeg om te keer dat die ligte begin flikker het nie.
The reserve margin is not going to improve in the next 5 to 7 years, and which therefore means that if the demand for electricity continues to increase, there will not be the supply.
In Desember 2007 het verskeie Suid-Afrikaanse woonbuurte beplande kragonderbrekings ervaar en het oud-president Thabo Mbeki skuld erken namens die regering.
Die president van die ANC, Thabo Mbeki, het in die openbaar verskoning gevra aan Eskom omdat die regering nie meer geld in kragstasies belê het nie.
In Januarie 2008 het die gereëlde kragonderbrekings in Suid-Afrika naam gekry: beurtkrag.
The baseload stations, the workhorses of the power system, these have now aged. They've aged. And it's these units that are not giving the desired performance. The expectation of performance on the baseload stations is 100% availability.
Kendall had to shut down because Kendall had not enough coal in its stockpile to actually drive its thing. And that was a question of, that had been coming for some time. That stockpile had been falling over the previous couple of years, in fact.
Net hierna vind ons uit wat die impak van beurtkrag op die Suid-Afrikaanse ekonomie is en hoe dinge al vroeg by Suid-Afrika se 2 megakragstasies skeef geloop het. Bly by ons. Welkom terug in deel 2 van haar spesiale verslag oor wat Eskom oor dekades laat val het tot 'n maatskappy wat diep in die rooi is en steeds gereeld beurtkrag moet toepas. Berig regisseur Karen Dorwiel oor hoe sake al in 'n vroeë stadium by Suid-Afrika se 2 nuwe megakragstasies skeef geloop het.
Soos Eskom sedert 2008 toenemend beurtkrag toegepas het, het die groter Suid-Afrika die prys betaal.
Water is to life as what electricity is to the economy. It's as simple as that.
South African industry is classically mining and heavy industry, and that requires electricity. And you've got a situation where if you're planning an industrial plant, you're planning 2 or 3 years in the future, maybe 5 years in the future, and if you cannot see electricity being in that window to feed it, and Eskom is saying to you, you can't have it, then you don't do it. The economy of this country is about 1/3 less than it would be if we had if in the mid-1990s, Eskom had committed to more power stations and gone on in the old model of Eskom generation building.
Maar Eskom het eers in die middel 2000s begin om die skade ongedaan te probeer maak met die bou van 2 kolossale kragstasies, Medupi en Kusile. Dinge het reeds skeef geloop in die beplanningsfase.
Medupi and Kusile was such a crash program that with the 12 units, that's 6 on each, they were physically building the components for the 12 before the first one was actually commissioned. So any lessons that you learnt on the first one being commissioned were unable to be factored into machine number 12. I'm saying 12 because there's 2 6s, because you've already built it. So
that's what they refer to as the design errors.
In steede daarvan dat die eerste eenheid van die nuwe stasies in 2007 aanlyn moes gekom het die eerste eenheid van Medupi eers in 2015 aanlyn gekom, 'n agterstand van 8 jaar.
When Eskom was building in the mid-1980s, we had an entire floor of Megawatt Park, which is civil engineering.
Correct.
When we started the construction of the gas turbine stations, which slightly predate Medupi and Kusile, we had 1 civil engineer in the company.
So internally, Eskom did not have the engineering capacities, capability to take on these projects. Before you even start, you lost the game.
Vir hierdie winter is dit belangrik dat al ons verbruikers seker maak hulle elektrisiteit bespaar, soos ons hulle gevra het, veral in die aande tussen 5:00 en 9:00.
In 2015 het Dr. Dirk Herman van Solidariteit geskryf dat duisende wit werknemers by Eskom oor 'n getal jare pad gegee het. Dit was egter nie sy grootste kommer nie. Hy het ook geskryf: "The problem is not necessarily that those who left the utility were white, but that they were people who possessed managerial and technical skills. Not only skills were lost in the process, but also institutional memory."
We'd gone from 68,000 employees in about 1985 or so,
85, correct,
down to below 30,000.
'n Klomp van die mense soos byvoorbeeld die bestekopnemers, quantity surveyors, siviele ingenieurs, al daai mense projekbestuurders was afgelê in daai tyd. Hulle was net nie meer by Eskom beskikbaar nie.
The boilers at Medupi and Kusile are almost 45 stories high. So you had the most complex engineering to be handled by the most non-existent engineering. So that was the problem. Most complex to not having the skills and capability.
In 2015 het die internasionale kredietgraderingsagentskap Standard & Poor's Eskom afgegradeer tot rommelstatus.
The model indicates that demand will exceed supply for the next 24 to 36 months.
Bly ingeskakel, net hierna vind ons uit watter rol korrupsie binne Eskom speel en hoe belangrik die rol van onafhanklike kragverskaffers geword het. Ons is nou terug. In die laaste deel van haar spesiale verslag oor reuse probleme by Eskom oor dekades, berig regisseur Karen Dorwiel oor hoe onontbeerlik die rol van privaat kragverskaffers in Suid-Afrika geword het.
Soos die geval met baie ander staatsinstansies, het Eskom ook nie korrupsie vrygespring nie.
By 2007, suddenly there was no spare capacity. And the battle cry in the company was what's called KLO, or keep the lights on. That was the claim. And essentially it was understood from 2007 onwards that you could sort of bend the rules as long as you kept the lights on. And that was very strong. It got stronger and stronger. Now, what then happens is you've got this acceptance of slightly bending the rules to make things happen.
The Eskom of yesterday. The teamwork that took place, that integrated teamwork, it was not it was a teamwork of enormous substance. And there was just no room for corruption. You would have been flushed out very quickly.
Ou kragstasies en nuwe kragstasies wat te laat gebou is en dikwels probleme gee, voorspel niks goeds nie.
Nou met betrekking tot die ou kragstasies, dit is moeite werd om te noem dat ons kragstasies met die uitsondering van Medupi en Kusile gemiddeld 41 jaar oud is. En hierdie kragstasies het 'n harde lewe agter die plat. Hulle is nie behoorlik in stand gehou nie. Hulle is baie harder bedryf as die internasionale norm en dit maak natuurlik dat hulle fundamenteel nie so betroubaar is as wat hulle moet wees nie.
Jy het 'n baie goeie reservemarge nodig as jy wil ordentlike instandhouding doen. En daar bestaan tans nie as gevolg van die tekort van kapasiteit 'n voldoende reservemarge nie. Eskom kort op die huidige oomblik in die omgewing van 6000 megawatt, nou op die huidige oomblik, sodat hy vir daardie ou stasies kan uit diens uithaal en hulle behoorlik kan voorsien.
Eskom is in crisis, and the risks it poses to South Africa are great. It could severely damage our economic and social development ambitions.
It's an enabler for economic growth. Jy het elektrisiteit nodig om jou ekonomie aan die gang te hou en om te laat groei. As ons byvoorbeeld teen ongeveer 5% ekonomies moet groei, gemiddeld gesproke, moet die groei in ons opwekkingsvermoë in die land teen ongeveer 2 na 3% per jaar groei.
But in the end, Eskom is just too big to fail.
Eskom is te ingegrawe in die hele Suid-Afrikaanse samelewing op te kan val. Daar's nie 'n manier wat ons Eskom kan afskakel nie, want daar's ook nie iemand anderste wat kan intree in daai werk doen.
Die organisasie Sake Eenheid Suid-Afrika, oftewel BUSA, sê indien onafhanklike kragverskaffers nie toegelaat word om elektrisiteit op te wek vir die nasionale kragnetwerk nie, sal beurtkrag nooit beëindig word nie.
The government went out with 2 tenders to the marketplace. The Renewable Energy Independent Power Producer Programme, bid window 5, and the Risk Mitigation Independent Power Producer Programme, about a year ago. And they got bids in the same time period from both of them.
Ons rol is om nuwe kragopwekking moontlik te maak, en veral kragopwekking dan deur die privaat sektor. Daarom het ons ook van meet af aan die verslapping van die lisensie beperkings wat in die ou dae gegeld het, van 1 megawatt, die president het aangekondig dat dit gelig gaan word na 100 megawatt.
I have yet to hear anybody actually signing a contract on the 100 megawatt power plants. Because I bet you they're going to find that they're going to have to turn to Eskom and say, what is your capacity charge? In other words, what is your charge to make up whenever my sun is not shining?
Die laaste woord in ons program behoort aan Sir Mick Davis. Hy was op 'n stadium die finansiële hoof van Eskom. Hy het laat verlede jaar 'n onderhoud toegestaan aan die Centre for Development and Enterprise.
And Eskom, unfortunately, is so large and so integral to the South African economy that its decline is potentially fatal for the economy itself.
Dis ongelukkig al vir vanaand. Onthou Fokus word elke donderdagoggend om 10:30 op SABC2 herhaal en ons is ook steeds beskikbaar op YouTube. Jy kan ons volg op ons Facebookblad by Fokus SABC of volg ons ook op Twitter by Fokus ZA. Jy kan vir ons 'n e-pos stuur aan fokus@sabc.co.za. Ons hoop jy kan volgende Woensdag aand om 7 weer by ons aansluit hier op SABC2 om 7 uur. Sien jou dan. Mooi bly.